Hi, everybody. Yeah, we will speak about French defense today. It's an opening I play since I'm a child because when I started to play chess, my father taught me, and there were no kids in the area I was playing. I mean, not so much people were playing chess, so I had to play against grown-ups, and he didn't want me to be checkmated with some bishop c4 and attack on f7. So he told me, okay, you should play the French and you block the attack. So I started my journey with the French defense like this. And then when I later had a coach who was an international master, he was playing himself the French defense. So he helped me. And then, okay, I played it all my life. So of course I changed a bit and played also other lines like some Sicilian defense or now even Pied defense. But yeah, I still continue to play the French. And okay, what I like about the French defense is like it's like a counter-attack opening. It's not passive. You want to attack white center. So basically, the idea is that white play e4 first move, and they want to go d4 second move and have a big center. So that's why usually black plays c5 or e5 in order to avoid d4. But with the French, we allow white to go d4, but we put a pawn on d5, and we're asking immediately a question about this pawn. And now white has to choose what they will do. So most of the time, we will have this pawn structure. And that's a good point about the French defense, is that we just have to learn and understand this pawn structure, and all our games will be about it if we want to. Of course, white could trade here, but I would say it's not the most ambitious way to play for white perspective, because black's main issue in this kind of position is this light square bishop, which is closed by our own pawn structure. So if white trade on d5, then we have a symmetrical position. So it's not usually the most exciting line, but at least we can say that we don't have any issue with our bishop, and we can play an easy game. And if we want to play for a win with black, actually there are some possibilities. For example, if white continue with bishop d3, I can recommend two lines in order to play for initiative. It could be to play c5 in order to play with an isolated d pawn and to unbalance the game, or also to play some ideas with a long castle. And usually to do so, we start with knight c6. So we attack the pawn. Let's say white protect with c3. We play bishop d6. Let's say white develop, and then we can go bishop g4. So the idea is that after playing queen d7, we are ready to play long castle and to roll pawns against the king side, maybe. White will do the same, actually, with b4, b5, and so on. So it's complicated, but at least we can have some interesting fight. And of course, if we want just to play solid, playing normal stuff with knight f6, bishop d6, castle, and something symmetrical, is always possible. But as I said, the core of the French defense will be this pawn structure. So immediately with b5, or white can protect the pawn with knight c3 or knight d2. Both are possible, and each one has some good and let's say some downsides. Playing knight c3 is the main move because the knight is more active on c3 than it is on d2, simply because it controls more squares and puts pressure against the d5 pawn immediately. But first of all, black can pin the knight with bishop b4, so threatening this pawn again, or also playing knight f6 and attacking the pawn one more time. And when I made a DVD on the French defense, a very long one, like 17 hours, I guess, with each chess, and I know the DVD. You can surely watch the DVD. or if you want to buy it, you can. I recommend this move. It's not that it's so much better than bishop b4, but I just feel that it's more easy to start with it. Because when you play bishop b4, which is very interesting, white usually close the center because the pawn was under attack. So we have our pawn structure on the center with d4 e5 against e6 d5. Black will attack white center, which is the main idea of the French defense, to destroy white center. And imagine you manage to trade those pawns and maybe those ones after f6. Black will remain with 2 central pawns against 0. So that's the idea in long-term perspective. But usually here white goes a3, attacking the bishop. Black trades on c3, white takes. And at least it protects the center, even if they add double pawns, which can become a weakness one day. But it is at the cost of our dark square bishop, which is clearly our best bishop. And this one might be annoying sometimes. For example, an idea with a4, bishop a3 might come. Also, queen g4 might be an idea. Sorry, queen g4 in order to attack this pawn. And yeah, that's one critical line, very interesting for both sides. And one recent game about it was the game between Nepomniachtchi and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. Maxime had white pieces, and he played the line with h4 on this line. It was during the candidates tournament, and so it's the last game and high level, let's say, played in real life, not on internet. But knight h6, I think it's easier because, like bishop b4, black is asking white what they want to do about this, attacking the pawn one more time. And most of the time, white will push, and the knight will land on d7. So it's not a great square on d7, because usually this knight from g8 likes to go on f5, while I can put pressure against d4. So on d7, it doesn't. But the good side is that black will play c5 and attack this pawn immediately. And then the knight on d7 is not that bad placed in order to attack the pawn on e5. And white must, okay, usually they play like this with f4 in order to protect the pawn on e5. Because if they play something else, let's say knight f3, black will go c5. And after the trade of these pawns, then knight c6, and both knights are targeting this pawn on e5. So that's why white usually goes f4, black goes c5, let's say knight c3, knight c6, and anyway, there are good chances that these 2 pawns will be exchanged, and this knight from d7 might jump on c5, and then on e4, or yeah, he will find a second life, so that's okay. And so the drawback of this knight on c3, except the pin, is that white cannot really reinforce the center with c3, so they will have to accept this trade. And here, usually white goes bishop e3 in order to protect here. And here, many lines are possible for black. In the DVD, I'm recommending the line I learned when I was a child, which is cd4, knight d4, bishop c5, which is quite okay because after queen d2, we castle, white play long castle, and we can try to push on the queen side, and it's very complicated. Black's idea is quite simple actually. Let's say if white goes h4, which it used to be the main move some decades ago, black can trade here in order to go b5 because, yeah, okay, we like our bishop, but the thing is that we cannot go b5 right now because knight on c6 would be hanging, so we have to do something about it. And as the position is opposite kings with opposite sides, let's say, we want to be fast, so we go b5, and let's say white continue, which is not that good this move, I have to say, but it's just to show you the idea. We go b4, so now this knight have to decide where to go. Usually white goes there because it will stop the a pawn and help to protect the king. If white goes on e2, black can go a5 and a4 and b3 and trying to open lines against the white king. So after b4, usually this knight goes there, but black's idea is to play like this: queen a5, attacking the knight, so b3 has to be played, bishop b7. The idea is to play bishop c6 and then to take the knight, and if the knight retreats, then yeah, a2 is under attack, so you have to play king b1. Then black can play bishop c6 anyway, so the knight has to go back, and then queen c5. And black is happy to play an endgame if white wants to do so, because the knight on c5 now is on a good square, because you want to jump on e4. You could have a fork here, or maybe here. And at the same time, the queen is no more on a5, so the pawn can go there, maybe develop the rook on the a file and creating some threat against white king. So that's why I think that black is quite quick in this kind of position, and white should not go h4, h5 like this. I know that. Oh. I just noticed that my microphone was not well plugged, but now it should be better and a better sound. I hope so. Yeah, I know that best move for white is rook to h3, because if with black we want to play the same kind of position, then the rook can have some action on the third rank and play with b3 and c3 and take back here. So usually when it's like this, black prefers to go a5 and exchange the light square bishops, and game is more or less even. Interesting for both sides. And just for theoretical sake, let's say, now the main line for white is to play with queen f2. So the idea is just to protect this knight and go with bishop d3, and from here attacking from 2h7. But that's more a modern line, let's say, since 15 years. But of course, you don't have to play exactly this line, and a6 is quite interesting in order to go b5 immediately without trading pawns, at least not right now. Or also a move like bishop e7 is possible. Many options for black, and also for the player who likes to play quite safe, you can go here for the endgame and trade everything on d4, play queen b6. And a player like Korchnoi played like this during the 80s. And this kind of endgame is quite okay for black. I mean, it's not the most ambitious way to play, but it's quite solid because, okay, we trade a lot of pieces. This bishop is not that good, of course, but maybe it could reappear somewhere, or if you play with f6, sometimes you can go this way. This knight might go on c4, or also sometime going back to c6, where he would have some action on the center. So sometimes you just redeploy like this. And of course, playing with just bishop d7, rook c8, and going there might be an option. And also, this knight should maybe aim for g6, but it's not always so bad for black, because just imagine we have this position, then black can go f6 and challenge this pawn, and this knight will not stay forever on d6. And if white finally goes for this kind of position, you can see that it should be fine for black with a nice center. So for player who likes to play endgames, it might be an option, and you don't have to learn a lot of theory, and you can go for it and avoid the sharp lines. I have to say that I never feared the sharp lines, and I played French to play for a win, not just exchanging pieces. So I never played this one, but it's just possible to play this way, of course. So yeah, that's about knight c3. If white goes e5 immediately, yeah, that's another story. But usually black would put pressure on the d4 pawn as soon as possible. So the queen will land to b6 immediately, or after bishop d7, which is the move I recommend in the DVD, but I played both in my life, bishop d7. So the idea is just to develop the bishop, free the c8 square for the rook, maybe taking good use of the c file, because yeah, we will surely exchange on d4 one day. But before taking this pawn, we like to wait this knight goes somewhere, because if black takes too early, it's a mistake, because this knight will have this square for free. And so it's better to wait that the knight goes here or somewhere, and then we can trade and using the c file at this moment. So yes, usually this is the square for the queen, and this knight could jump on f5 via h6 or even e7, but usually we go to h6 because first of all it's not that easy to take here because sometimes black will take on b2 intermezzo and trap the rook. But there are some tricky lines, and sometimes black just recapture on h6, for example, like this. Because if we go there immediately, yeah, it's not such a good idea for the queen because white would play like this, and you can see it's not easy at all to go away with the queen. White just want to castle, and then with this rook, trap the queen when the knight will move away. So yes, that's an example where actually here you just want to take like this. And yeah, black's pawn structure is not that great, I have to say, but you can go bishop g7, castle, and f6. And black will have some dynamic play. Let's say something like this, knight a3 to develop the knight, and yeah, f6. And if white takes, rook takes, then clearly bishop d7, double rooks on the f5, maybe king h8. This bishop from d7 might go to e8, to g6 or h5, and black has some play, and yeah, fight. There is a big fight here. But as I said, it's not the line I recommend, but bishop d7 instead. But anyway, that's the kind of position you can have. And the problem for white is to take care about this pawn because, of course, the best square for this bishop is d3 because pawns are on this diagonal, well placed, and the bishop here is targeting h7 and also this diagonal. And the problem for black is that it will not be so easy to castle because there will be this Greek sacrifice. Bishop takes h7, which will always be a problem. But the problem about this bishop on d3 is that it blocks the defense about the d4 pawn. So black could trade on d4 once and play queen b6. So it's an exception about our rule to not take when the knight is there. But here we have good reason to do so because this pawn on d4 is now under attack and not easy to defend because, of course, bishop e3 is a big mistake. We win the pawn on b2. Moving the bishop again is not that great because let's say bishop c2, we could play knight b4 and we just want to eliminate this bishop, which is the best minor piece in white's position. So if white want to keep the bishop, then they will have some other issue. Let's say queen a6. And problem is that white cannot castle. And also knight d3 might come. And yeah, I don't really know how white should deal with this, but it's not easy. So usually if white plays like this, they will just give the pawn on d4 and play in a gambit spirit. So it's not that bad actually if they play this line with knight bd2, which is possible, but at least, I mean, black has one pawn up and a good one, it's a pass pawn. And they will try to develop like this, then move the bishop and yeah, castle, and yeah, it's possible. The main line in this Barry Milner gambit was this some years ago, but it's not that good for white now. Knight c3, so white would like to go knight b5, and of course we cannot take because bishop take by check and win the queen. So we have to play a6, avoiding the knight to come here. Here the main move is queen e2, protecting this pawn, knight e7. And after king h1, knight e6 is attacking this pawn, they protect, knight b4. And black managed to take the bishop because bishop b1 would save the bishop, but queen c4 is really annoying for white. Black just want to trade queens and play an endgame with one pawn up. And if white decline and play, I don't know, some move like this, then the pawn can move forward, and that's an issue because the bishop on d7 will go to c6, and it will become quite good actually. And this pawn will continue to move forward, and yeah, that's good for black. So usually white, yeah, just play this. And yeah, the move to know is bishop c5, because there is no great discovery attack. For example, white can take back his pawn here, but black will exchange queens, and of course, white cannot take, the bishop will be trapped like this. So he has to go back, and the game is just good for black with more active pieces, and this pawn is more important than this one. So that's why this line went out of fashion, let's say, and usually white tries something else. So they develop the bishop on e2, or they play a3, which is quite useful in order to grab some space on the queen side. And also, if black plays with some queen b6 one day to attack on d4, then the bishop might go to b2, and it will help to protect d4. So that's quite interesting. But black has many ways to play. I like f6, immediately attacking the center. The idea is that white doesn't really have time to go for its plan with b4, because we can take, and here the logical move b5 is not that good, because of course it would work if black has to move the knight, because white would take on e5, and then this position would be just, okay, maybe not winning, but great for white, because this knight is a monster. It's a big hole in the black constructor. The queen might go to h5, and yeah, this pawn is weak. It's an open file. White will put the bishop there, castle, put a rook on e1, maybe the other one will go also, and we will have yeah, many issues in this position. So that seems to be annoying. But here we have this nice move, which is very strong, because black destroy white center, obtain 3 pawns for the piece, and we play knight f6, bishop d6, castle, and then just move forward with all his pawns, and yeah, like a roller coaster, and yeah, difficult for it. So yeah, and if you wonder what happens if white takes now, black can go there, queen h5 check, black has this move, and after knight takes g6, knight f6 is possible, attacking the queen, so the queen has to go back, and then we can just move the rook, and if they take, rook takes, and right now it's equality in terms of pawns. We have 6 pawns each, but I like black's position, because the knight will go there, will maybe attack here, the queen can go there, the pawn could move forward, and sometimes it's quite useful to have this bishop in front of the queen, and our king might go this way, so that's quite good for black. So yeah, that's why I like this move f6, and usually so b4 is not that good, and then we will trade, play queen c7, long castle, and yeah, it's an interesting line. So I like to play in this spirit with black. For those who like more strategical stuff, I can recommend the move c4. Okay, in the French defense, I really don't like to close the center, because as I said earlier, black's main idea is to attack white center, and when you go c4, thing is that white doesn't have to worry about this pawn anymore. So usually I never play c4, and I consider it to be a big mistake, because white has free hands to attack on the king side. Move this knight, go f4, f5, bringing every pieces on the king side. But here there's one little detail, is that this pawn is on a3, so there is this all on b3, and playing with knight a5, we could go there, and the bishop might go to a4 and maybe do some stuff. And yeah, it's not that easy for white. For example, if they play bishop e2, usually white prefers to play g3 and go this way with the bishop. But anyway, it doesn't change much our plan with black. Let's say knight here, so we're trying to go there, so knight d2. And here, usually we move the bishop, and then the queen could go to d7, and then we'll go bishop a4. And that is a clever
clever idea. Let's say some move like this, queen d7, bishop moves. Then yeah, bishop a4 is quite good because then we could go here with the knight. The bishop might go to c2 and be in front of the pawn chain, so that's quite useful. And we will play with long castle, so the king will be safe there, and that's quite okay. And another idea, which is interesting also, same idea to control the a4 square, is to bring this knight to b6. So you will help the bishop to go there. And yeah, at least the knight won't stay on g8 forever. Because, yeah, only, let's say, drawback in black's position here is the lack of space. And especially this square that we would like to use for both pieces, bishop and the knight. So if we can move this knight somewhere where it is useful, let's say on b6, that's quite good for us because then we can go bishop a4, this knight could go to b3, the king will hide there, and one day we could play f6, open the position, and yeah, that's interesting. So I have to say that's one of the only case where I quite like this c4 idea, and you can see it's much more closed position. So it's like you prefer. I used to play f6 in this kind of position, but it depends on your taste. Mostly, I have to say the choice here. So yes, this is about advanced variation. And other line which is quite popular is Tarrasch line, knight d2. So it's quite a good deal because the knight from d2 is protecting e4. White doesn't have to worry about any more pin because c3 can come. And also when black will attack white center, they could play with c3, creating a nice pawn chain. So everything seems to be great for white. But one of the drawbacks is that, of course, the knight on d2 is less active. And right now is blocking the bishop and also the queen. And especially on this pawn. So that's why now black's main move, and usually what they choose in top level game is c5, attacking immediately the pawn. This move c5 actually is not really good on knight c3 because yeah, the main difference is that the queen is attacking here, the knight also, and white could play just something like this, and the pawn is already under attack. And yeah, that's a problem for black playing like this. So you cannot play this on knight c3, but on knight d2, yes, it is possible to attack immediately the center. And now what is really popular is this capture with the queen and something like this. Take back here. So of course, white will take this pawn later. Let's say they play bishop c4, queen goes back, the castle, knight c6, like that. But this kind of pawn structure is possible. I just played it maybe once or two times in my life because I like to play French defense against this pawn structure. So usually I play knight f6 or other moves, but objectively speaking, c5 might be the best option. Also, other choice is to play with e takes d5, to play with an isolated pawn. What is important here just to say is that when we have this pawn structure, okay, of course, white should not take so early, but just to show it, it's a better option. It's a better kind of position for black when white has the pawn on c, on the c file than on the e file, because with this pawn here, the bishop from c5 is not targeting f2 so easily if we have something like this. But right now, you can feel that black will always have some activity. The knight will go to f6, castle, then we'll try to go on e4, and that's quite interesting. So yeah, it's clearly possible to play like this. And as I said, this is not white's main move. But if you want to start with the French defense and first learn all about this pawn structure, you have to provoke white to go there. So you have to attack this pawn, and knight f6 here is what we like to play if we want to provoke e5, because anyway white has this pawn under attack, so they have to decide. As we said, taking is not really an issue for black. Protecting like this is possible, but then okay, we can go c5, because if now white take here, queen takes, bishop is no more on f1, so g2 is under attack and d4 is under attack, and the line I showed you just a few minutes earlier was with bishop c4 attacking this queen. So with the bishop on d3, it's not the same, and it's clearly even a better version for black. So if we have this position, usually white goes for e5 anyway and protect then the center like this. And I will show you one game I really like in this line. So yes, that's why I recommend knight f6 in the DVD, just to start with French defense and to obtain this pawn structure. And then we will always have to learn how to play against this. And when we understand it, we can change a bit our lines, but general spirit of the position will remain the same. And I think that's quite a good thing to start with the same kind of position. And then with some experience and step by step, you can change a bit and play other kind of position. I know that some players like to trade pawns here and play a Rubinstein position, which also is quite solid, but it's not like in the French spirit the way I see the position. It's much more like Caro-Kann kind of position, but it's solid, and usually black goes knight d7 and want to develop this knight here. And if you want, you can go for it. And I have to say that it can be a clever choice because you just have to learn one line against both knight d2 or knight c3, because the position will be the same if you go there, or if you play it after knight d2, of course. And yeah, it's possible. I think it's more if you want to play safe position and you don't bother about making a draw. But some strong player like German Grandmaster George Meyer played this quite often and with good results. So I have to say that it's possible to play like this. I never felt really attracted about this, and I prefer to play against this constructor, as I said. So that's why I made my choice about this knight f6. So usually white goes here, knight goes to d7. And in the game I wanted to show you, so it's a game from 1984. If I remember well, I will just check it. Yeah, 84. That's it. Against Kudrin. So it's an American Grandmaster, and Victor Korchnoi, who was a great champion with French defense. Surely is the best who played it during all his life. Other great player who choose to play French defense, there is, let's say Petrosian, who played it, but I guess he played it less often than Korchnoi. Korchnoi, I think it's the guy who played it really all his life. Also, maybe Wolfgang Ullmann was a player who plays French defense all his life. Yeah, now we don't have much player on top level playing it so often, but we can see it time to time. Rajabov was playing French defense when he was young, and now he changed, played something else. But yeah, I would like to see more French defense, but that's like this. So here, Kudrin played c3. It's okay. White can start with bishop d3, but anyway, it won't change much, because after c5 he will play c3 and then protect the center. Just to tell you, if you have some questions or you want to propose some moves, you can put some comments on the Facebook Live, and I will have a look. I just came here to see, and I saw that Joy Sexton was writing something, Vivian also, so hi to you both, and everyone else who is watching. but feel free to ask whatever you want. So in the game, white started with c3 instead of bishop d3, but we had the same position. Knight c6 and knight e2 was played. So why knight e2 instead of knight f3? Because yeah, it seems better here on f3. It's a better square for this knight, of course, but the problem is that it will not be that easy to protect d4. Here, black can play many moves, but for example, if they go with queen b6, then white's best idea is to give us the pawn and play for compensation, because of course you cannot protect like this because you will lose the piece. So white has to castle, and actually it's an interesting pawn sacrifice. White usually plays like this: queen goes back, queen a4 is the main move, I think. The idea is to go there with the queen and keeping an eye on g7, and it's not that easy to develop pieces with black. And I think that here black usually goes queen b4, but I never played this queen b6 stuff and attack the pawn, but it was just to show you the problem for white with this center. Here, when I was facing this position, I used to choose one aggressive line, which is bishop e7, and after castle, go g5. Might appear shocking for the one who never saw this move or this line, but the idea is simply to go g4. This knight has to go somewhere else, and then nobody is protecting this pawn. So that's a problem for white. And if they stop like this, black can go h5. So anyway, we want to go g4. And usually game goes that way. White take here, let's say g4, the knight goes there. Black can take this pawn, bishop b5, bishop d7. So yeah, it's not entirely safe for the king, but at least black took control of the center. They want to move this knight away, go e5, and that's quite interesting. Yeah, it's always a big fight to play like this. And I was attracted about this line when I was young. I saw a player like Morozevich play like this, and he was inspiring. But of course, you don't have to play this if you don't want to. Later, I also played this move f6, which is more in the French kind of position. And also, you can choose the move g6, which usually is not played that often because the bishop is quite well placed on this diagonal, and we don't like to play e6 and g6 usually because we are weakening the dark squares. But here, black's idea actually is to play with bishop g7, castle, and then f6, trade this pawn, and put full power against white center. So g6 is also quite a good move. So many options. But you can see that white have some issues about this pawn if they play this line. And that's why main move is knight e2, because the other knight might go to f3 and protect d4. So that is the main idea. Okay, here black took on d4, white took on d4 and played f6, which is logical and putting pressure against this pawn. And here white usually take, and it is the move Kudrin played in this game. Just to tell you that playing f4 is not that good, even if it seems logical, because white is protecting his center. This knight will go there, so we play castle, and everything seems to be good. But sorry, the main drawback of this move is that black can take. And if white take with this pawn, then the bishop will go to c5, and white cannot castle. Black can, and that will be an issue. And if they take with this pawn, then black can take use of the weakening of this diagonal and take this pawn. Problem for white is that if they take back, we have queen h4 check, and this knight on g4, no, d4, sorry, will be taken back next move. So black will remain with one pawn up. So that's why f4 is not so popular. Another move which is interesting, but is now more or less out of fashion, is knight f4, attacking the pawn on e6. And it's really important for black to trade first on d4 here and not play f6 here, because right now knight f4 would be annoying, but if we trade pawns first and go f6, the idea after knight f4 is that black can take here and protect e6 at the same time. This line is interesting because black has to give an exchange, but they have great compensation. For example, queen h5 check, so the king has to move. Yeah, it seems scary, but let's check what happened. Knight g6 check, pawn takes, check, knight takes, queen takes h8, and now king f7. So if we make a stop here, black only has one pawn for the exchange, which is not completely enough, but they will have a very strong center, and white has some trouble to finish his development. For example, after castle e5, they want to move this knight to put the bishop into play, but they have to find a good square. Black wants to continue to put this pawn forward. And also I have to say that black's next move usually is bishop f5, and after the trade of the bishop, the pawn will also go to the center, and black had great results here. I know that the main line is this. Seems strange to destroy white's pawn structure like this, but actually this pawn is quite useful to help protecting the center, and black doesn't have many EV pieces to go there. I mean, rook and queen cannot easily go to attack the king, so that's not so bad for white, but we play bishop f5, and the pawn structure starts to improve like this. And that's quite okay for black. And actually, yeah, white played this even on this position, like this. Yes. But anyway, black can go there. No, not sorry. I said knight f3. I'm saying something bad because there's bishop before check and winning the queen. So sorry about this. It's after castle, like I said. But black's perspective are quite good with his exchange down. And there is one old game I'm showing in the DVD between Van der Wiel, he was a Dutch grandmaster, against Jan Timman. Game from the 80s. I don't really remember the year it was played, but maybe something like, say, 85 or 86. And black played a nice game and won a nice ending. I can maybe find the game somewhere and go quickly. Yeah, that was the game. Yes, 90. I will just reverse the board so you can see it from black point of view. Yes, so that was the game. And yeah, so bishop f5 to have the pawn structure like this. Bishop g5 was played, queen a5 check. So the king moved. Yeah, king will go here and will be safe on g2. So that's not too bad for white. But here g6 is quite a good move. So it doesn't give the knight. It's not a mistake because we have this check on a6 with the queen protecting and attacking. On black's idea after g6 is simply to go maybe bishop g7 and rook h8. So yeah, usually white takes, queen check, king move, queen takes. And now white has to keep queens on the board and play something like queen a4, which I faced 2 times maybe in my life. But going for the endgame is quite bad because of black super strong center. And the rooks are supposed to be better than a bishop, but the problem is that white only has this c file open, and after bishop d6 they cannot enter into black's position. I mean, c8 is under control, c7 also, c6 also, c5 also, and yeah. So actually the rook cannot have their full power, I have to say, but black's plan is quite easy. They will bring the king back to the center, then maybe go e4, go d3, and let white suffocate in this kind of position. Rook here was played, so king e6 to protect the pawn. An important thing to remember is not to go to hasty, because after d4, white could destroy the center, and then white would be better, of course. But after some move like this, white will not manage to activate the rook the way they would like to. So g5 was played in order to avoid any f4. Rook c1 was played. Okay, white wants to go there, and king d7 was played just to avoid it. You are happy with black pieces here to keep one pair of rook in the position, because white has two rooks, you only have one. So if it disappears, it will be a problem, because the rook there now will go more or less everywhere, and it will be an issue. But like this, we can use our rook somewhere later, maybe on the h file, attacking this pawn. So we keep all the power of our rook. But white's, for white side, it's not that easy with these two rooks open, double up on the c file, who cannot enter into black's position. So the game continued this way. And here I have to give credit to Vanderville, who found a good idea. He played h4. I like this move because he gave one pawn, but he wants this g5 pawn to disappear in order to go f4 and find some counterplay. Because if he doesn't do this and just play, I don't know, move like king f1 to go back to the center, then black will bring his king to the center, play rook h8 anyway. And if white is passive like this, you can see that black will play e4, black will play d3, and just push everything. So that's why this was a good move, and white managed to find some counterplay. But anyway, now it's clear that black is in driver's seat, let's say, and that's the one who plays to try to win the game. And okay, I will just go quickly to show you the rest of the game at this speed, because I wanted to show you the Koshnoi's game. But I just thought it was interesting to you to see that this strong center can compensate the exchange, and it's one of black's main strategy in the French defense. So yeah, we arrive in this kind of position where a race now occurs. White has this passer and black has this one or this one. And when we have this kind of endgame, it's one of the cases where a bishop is not really inferior to a rook, because it can control for long distance the pass pawn of the opponent. And so he has a great ability in this kind of position. So game continued that way. And finally, you can see that black managed to win. But yeah, white had some chances at some point and could have saved the game. No, okay, now it's too late, of course, because the bishop is controlling this. And black just was careful enough to play this move b5, which is important, because if black goes king here and go to queen too early, the problem is that white can make a draw like this, because the king will go to b5, and then they will lose a deflection, and the bishop has to go there, and then this one b6 will be lost, and black won't have enough material to win the game. But yeah, sometimes you can just not hurry too much, play a move like b5, and then king b2, then a1, and yeah, just win the game. So just go back to Koshnoi's game. And yeah, I wanted to speak about this line just a bit. And yes, so that's why actually knight f4 now isn't played so much, and white prefer to take here. And here, main move is to play knight x f6 like Koshnoi did. In the DVD, I'm showing a nice idea with queen takes f6, which I played when I was younger. So it seems strange to go here with the queen, but yeah, we have a nice idea. Okay, first of all, we are attacking the pawn on d4, but it's easy to protect. And here, a strategical move, which is important, is to play h6. So why? Because white wants to play bishop g5, bishop h4, bishop g3, and trade the bishop on this diagonal. So for example, if we play something like this, and let's say white castle, oh, sorry, white castle, black also, bishop here. So be careful because bishop takes h7 is a threat. If king takes, then knight g5, making a fork. So let's say move like this, and bishop g3. Yeah, that would be quite bad for black because we need this bishop absolutely to cover our dark squares. Without it, it's clear that white is better because we lack control over the dark squares. White could play something like rook e1, knight f4, some knight e5 one day. This rook will go to this file, and we have a bad position with black. So remember to keep this bishop alive. And so that's why h6 is good. So it's scary about all these weak squares on light square, but actually this knight will go there just later to protect everything. And main line of this is something like castle, bishop d6. Let's say move like this, castle, bishop e3. And black's idea is to play rook d8, knight will go to f8, and this bishop will then find a nice spot on g6 or h5. So that is black's idea, which I like, and I like this maneuver when I was young, and analyze it in the DVD, and I think it's still playable. And just to say that if your opponent wants to go bishop g6, you can let him do, because even if you lose the right to castle, the thing is that you will do more or less the same, because knight f8 will be the next move. Okay, let's say a3, knight f8, so the bishop has to go back, and the king will go to g8, and it's the same way as if we had castled, because the rook is already on d8, didn't have to go to f8 square, and white lose also many tempo playing bishop g6, bishop d3 back, and you can see white didn't accomplish much. You can go king g8, bishop d7, rook c8 in front of the queen, and always this kind of idea. So that's an interesting line, this queen takes f6. But of course, the most popular move is the move played by Victor Korchnoi this game, knight takes f6, which I already played sometimes in my life. So white played knight f3, bishop d6, castle, and now queen c7, which is a good move because you can see he didn't allow his opponent to play bishop f4, and he doesn't want to trade the dark square bishop. So that's something we should remember. Even if castle is played even at grandmaster level, because in this position, even if it's very good for white in a strategical point of view, black could continue with this kind of move, and it's not that clear what's going on. And black has its chances, but I prefer to play in the spirit of the position and keeping the dark square bishop and go queen c7. Here Kudrin played knight c3. Main move is bishop g5 anyway, but yeah, let's have a look at the game. So knight c3 was played. So of course, white would like to go there and make some kind of fork. So we cannot allow this. So a6 was played. Bishop g5 now, castle, and bishop h4. So white want to trade the bishop, as we mentioned earlier. But so now, guessing the move for black's point of view shouldn't be so hard, I guess. If you understand, you don't want this bishop to go there. You have to bring someone to interfere with white's intentions. So the move is knight h5. So now if the bishop go there, of course, we take with the knight. Also, it's important to be sure that this kind of idea doesn't work because it seems scary, attacking the king, attacking the knight on h5, but the king has a safe spot on h6. It's not always the case, but this bishop on h4 isn't on this diagonal anymore. white cannot play some queen d2 and hoping for knight e6 because we have bishop f4, and we attack the queen and the knight. So the king is safe on h6, and yeah, bishop f5 is coming. This knight will have to go back, and the king would go safely on g8, and it will be safe for black. But yeah, we have to be sure about this, of course. So in the game, white played rook e1, and here Knight played a move I really liked and I was impressed about. It's g6. So the idea about g6 is, okay, first of all, to protect this knight, avoid any bishop h7 to come, and most of all, it frees the g7 square for the queen, where it will help to put pressure against d4. And as I mentioned already since we started, black's main idea is to attack and destroy white center, and all about this game is, yeah, it's all about this. So yeah, g6 is very good. If we played bishop d7, now this sacrifice was working for white also, I have to say, because if we go king h6, like I showed earlier, now white could take this pawn, and that's an issue, because this rook now is well placed. Black has to take, rook takes, and that's already a big problem for black. White could take here. The king is under attack. Yeah, black won't survive about this. So g6 was played, very good. White played rook c1, rook in front of the queen, then queen g7. So we want to take this pawn. So white goes there, logical. Bishop d7, we continue to develop our pieces. And so this rook might enter into the game. So either on c8 or on e8, or maybe we will just double the rook and full power on the f file. Here, Kudrin played bishop g3, and black will take this bishop with the knight. A much more recent game played between two grandmasters saw this move, but it was a mistake for white, because black has a very typical move here, really strong, which is rook takes knight. The idea is just to remove one defender of the d4 pawn, and after rook takes f3, if queen takes f3, then knight takes d4, making a fork. So that's already almost winning for black. So g takes f3 has to be played, but then black took on d4. So it's already 1 point for the exchange, but you can see that the king is quite weak. This pawn also, and it's not all about the pawn, but also about the squares. And f4 is a very good square for the knight. Maybe he could go to h3 also, now that the pawn is no more on g2. And yeah, there's too much problem for white. And the game continued this way, and black wasn't up. It was a game played between Mista, so he's a Polish grandmaster. And yeah, I know him quite well. He's a nice guy. We played the same French team against David Navarre, which is one of the best players of the world now. And even at this time, he was already quite strong. So yes, this rook takes f3 is quite good. But in our main game, Kudrin didn't make the same mistake. He played bishop g3. So as we mentioned earlier, we have to take this bishop and don't let our strong dark square bishop to disappear. So Knight took, pawn takes, and he continued with g5, which is very good. The idea is just to go g4, putting this knight somewhere else, and white will have nobody to take the pawn on d4, and then it's winning the pawn. So here, queen d3 was played. So yeah, the idea is to play against the queen, which can be overloaded, because it has to protect h7 and g5. So white would like to play some knight g5, and I guess that's why Knight played rook f7, just to overprotect h7. Also, black can play rook f8, And yeah, so nice move, protecting everything and continue to bring every piece into the game. Rook CD1 was played. Okay, I said it was dubious in my annotations, but I can understand why. They just do all what they can to protect this pawn. So yeah, rook d1. Course knight developed the rooks. There was nothing wrong about the move g4, so that's why I said it's interesting in my notes. But the way Course knight played is just really strong, so I cannot say that g4 was better. Just if you were wondering, it was just another possible move and a good one. But like this is good. King h8, yeah, just improving the position. Knight d1. And now I like also the way Course knight continue to play. He just bring another piece to attack d4. So it is this bishop, and he decided to play bishop c7. So the idea is simply to go there and yeah, to attack one more time the pawn with the knights, bishop, the queen. Maybe we could improve, play some g4 one day, or even some rook sacrifice on f3. And here, yeah, white played a decisive mistake, I have to say, but it was already very hard to find a move because I don't really know what to advise to play for white, because this looks normal for white because this knight would like to go to g4 and then maybe to e5, which would be a normal idea, but after bishop a5, we win an exchange, so white need his knight on d1 to cover this threat. So they have no active idea like knight e3, knight g4, knight e5, and yeah, hard to say what to play. So okay, queen e3 is clearly a mistake because Koshnev found a way to refute it. But as I said, it was already really difficult to play for white. And yeah, really nice move. So he took, pawn takes, and he found this move bishop f4, which is key why rook takes knight on f3 is working. So the thing is that white cannot take, because after pawn takes, yeah, it is check and attacking the queen, so black would win the queen. And if the queens move somewhere, let's say e2 or d3 to protect the rook on d2, black wins this pawn finally, and knight takes f3 is coming. So maybe best move is to play this, but we would enter into this position with an exchange and 2 pawns up. And anyway, a weak king. So yeah, actually after bishop f4, Kudrin resigned. But I really liked this game, and I think it's very good advertising for the French defense to see it. Because yeah, all that black wants to achieve, they managed to do it in this game. Bring every piece to attack d4, keeping important piece like the dark for bishop, find some activity, and yes, put pressure against white center. Yeah, that's the main idea of the position. So I hope that you like this game, and also what I showed about French defense in general. I think it's yeah, clearly a good opening. It's not better or worse than Sicilian or E4, E5 or Caro-Can or whatever. It's just interesting because you can play for a win with this opening. It's good to make some counter attack, and if you like this close center positions, you can obtain it quite easily, and yes, you can build your repertoire around it. But like every opening, it's first of all about your own taste. And if one opening was better than the other one, of course, everybody would play it. So it's not so clear now what is the best one. And I still believe in this French defense. So I don't know if I convert someone today. So yeah, you will tell me if you want to write here or on Facebook. You can do it. I saw that Joey told me I was taking notes on white opening. Yeah, for white point of view, every line is possible. I just was speaking about black's position, but every line is possible, but it depends what you prefer. Knight c3 should be the sharpest way to deal with the French defense, because as I mentioned, in this kind of position, you can play with long castle and black will go this side. So yeah, with opposite castle, it's interesting. Also, a move I didn't mention is that bishop g5 is also possible. Here black can play bishop e7, bishop b4, or even trading this pawn one more time. Knight d2 is more positional stuff, and it was played, for example, by a player like Karpov. So it's more if you want to play in this kind of position. Now the fashion is this move c5. I mentioned it briefly. Even if I was more attracted by knight f6, c5 is the most popular move now, and we can understand it because black wants to attack white center, because yes, this knight on d2 is blocking the queen. So you can take here or even play knight f3. But I have to say that when you play with this pawn structure, both camps have their chances, because white could claim that they have this pawn majority on the queen side, and if you manage to put the bishop on this diagonal one day, you exert some pressure against b7 and you will try to push the pawns. But black could want to do the same with e5 and try to push on the other side. So yeah, that is completely possible to play it, and I mean, independent of your taste. E5 is, I think, underestimated. Usually kids play e5 and then switch to other moves, but nothing is too clear in this line. I showed you that I like bishop d7 and a3 I like f6, but it's unclear. And instead of a3, also bishop e2 is one good move. Black can continue to try to attack the center with queen b6 or f6 also. But if you're interested in advanced French defense, you can have a look at Grishuk's game. He played it a lot when he was young, and then he played time to time now. And maybe also Movsesian, the Armenian grandmaster, who played it a lot. So it could be one good way for white to play against the French defense without to know too much theory. So yes, and okay, I don't really advise to take on d5 to play as advanced. And for kids, why not? Because it's easy and you just want to play chess and don't worry too much about the opening. So you change the pawn, you develop, and then you play chess. But okay, it's not bad to take, of course, because it's just symmetrical and white has one tempo up, so it's quite safe. But yeah, at least it's not really ambitious. So yeah, it's up to you which one to choose. E5 maybe if you don't want to learn too much theory. Knight c3 if you want some sharp play, and knight d2 if you want a more strategical kind of play. So yeah, that's the way you could make your choice from white point of view. What about for? Okay, I don't understand the last word. Poison. Maybe if you want to write it again, Joy. Just checking if we had something on. Okay. Derek prefers to play Sicilian. Yeah, you can play Sicilian all your life. It's quite interesting, Sicilian also. Just yes, you have to. It's more complicated, I have to say, because when you play Sicilian, you have to know, of course, position after d4. I mean, not more gambit. Okay, you have to know, but let's say you play knight c6. I don't know, but I mean this classical way to play main line. But you also have to know how to deal against Alapin defense and sometimes isolated pawn for your opponent. You also have to know how to play against closed Sicilian, which is yeah, completely different stuff. and not only f4, but some g3 or some bishop b5 here. And also you have to know to deal about post-solimo. So you have to know many different positions. And that's the difference with the French, where you can more or less play your own kind of position if you like this close center. So and I will never say it's better than the Sicilian, just a different spirit. But French has his trumps, let's say, and if you understand how to attack this white center, you can use it all your life, and that's not so bad. And actually, you don't have to play just one opening; you can try it time to time. But yes, Sicilian, as I said at the beginning, the idea is clearly to avoid white to create a big center. So you immediately avoid white to play d4, and it's a French defense. You invite white to play d4 in order to attack it later. So it's just two different approach of the game, I have to say. You let white taking the space, but then you already start to attack it like this, and we have 6. And Sicilian is just, you don't give anything, you just want fight on move 1. So yeah, that's let's say two philosophy. Yeah, so I don't know if you have some question you can write, and if not, I just hope that you liked it. And you can anyway write to me later on. You can find me on Twitter or on Facebook or wherever you want. I would have liked to be there with you in Canada this year, and I wanted to play the tournament, but with this COVID virus, I had to cancel. So I'm now in France, but I hope I could come next year, meet you, and play the tournament and discover the country, because I never been to Canada, and I would really like it. So yeah, I hope it will be possible next year, or maybe in 2 years, but one day. So yeah, and so I wish you the best. I don't know if Ken could come back, and maybe I will give him. I don't know how to give. Okay, I will give him the mic back. I don't know how to. Maybe I should stop the conference now. I don't know if you can couper le micro. Can back. But okay, if not, I will just say bye to everybody, and thank you for listening tonight. And yeah, I hope you liked it, and to see you soon. Ciao, everybody.